Okay, Honda fanboys, Acura fanboys, you know what that is. And for those of you that don't, you're about to hear it. Yep, I've been using it all week, as you can tell. So obviously it has remote start. It has navigation. It has a ELS premium audio stereo. It doesn't have a full-on digital gauge cluster, and it's a bit annoying because of that. But nothing could be as annoying as this right here, where you have to have all these different buttons for the transmission selection. What I've discovered, like doing a 3-point turn or going through a parking lot, is that you put 2 fingers in the front and 1 finger in the back. That's quite the shocker. That's how you get around in this car. Let's go for it. Backup camera, no 360. Kind of annoying, but let's drive it. Obviously, it has plenty of power. We're not concerned about the power, but I wouldn't necessarily put this at the top of my shopping list because this vehicle has a 355 horsepower turbocharged V6, and it's nowhere near the 400 horsepower that Infiniti has in the Q50 Red Sport 400. And this interior is also, while it may look modern, it's full of wasted space. There's tons of wasted space in here, and it has weird materials all over the place. So I'm not a fan of this car for the way it drives, for the way it feels in here. It's just a little different, and I've been taking my time with it for the week, but I still just can't. It's just not working for me. And there are different reasons for it. The first one is obviously the color. That color is embarrassing. I thought it was cool for like the first 5 seconds, and then it was just absolute nastiness. And I'll show you that right now. Let me just get out and boom, put that in park. The auto stop start's actually pretty nice. It's very smooth. They don't even know it's working. That color is exactly like it is in person. Just look at the camera and the real color. But, you know, for those of you who used to be embarrassed by being picked up in an ugly car, this is definitely one of those ugly cars. In fact, I didn't pick anybody up in school in this car because it's just so nasty. Now, if this was white or black or silver or red, obviously it wouldn't be that problem, but this color, do not get it at all. The other problem is this car looks really good. It's very aggressive. It's causes people to have some road rage. The V6 takes care of that, but the issue here is it feels big on the outside, but once you open the door and get in, it's tiny. If I can even get in. Come on, let's get the key, unlock. Oh, look at that, it won't even unlock it while the engine's running. We'll do it from this side. Yeah, so there's not much room back here. I'm not even going to get in the back. It's not going to win any awards, that's for sure. It beeps at me all the time. And that's the other problem. There are hardly any ways to change settings on this car. So You've got menus, you've got a way to get in here. It's the same Acura setup as other vehicles, but it's not a touchscreen. And this is where I go, I'd rather have a Q50, because the Q50 had 2 screens. One was a touchscreen and the other one had like navigation and stuff. And you know, people may say it was old school, but it still works and it still makes sense. I get in here and I go, oh, there's less power, there's less refinement, and there is just less, I don't know, this does not appeal to me. It just, there's something about it where you have an HVAC system that isn't even integrated into the fancy stereo system screen. That's just navigation and stereo. So yeah, I'm not a fan. And as far as the sound, let me turn the fan down here. The sound's pretty good, but you'd have to put it into sport mode, and to do that you go here. And I don't know why there is a sport and then a sport plus mode. Just give me sport plus as the standard mode. And to get into sport plus, you actually have to hold it. Okay, when it does that, you notice that when we put it in drive, it's actually just in drive. You see the D there, but it's not in sport mode. Press it one more time. Now I'm in sport mode. So when I'm driving along, I don't realize I'm in sport mode unless I look at that one little S down there. And this doesn't even change color. So that's, I think, a mistake on their part, because I don't know what mode I'm in even if I press that button, drive or sport. And then that screen is pretty ridiculous for the animation, because when you're at a red light and you want to burn people at the light, they're going to see that animation from the next car over, and they're going to know you've just changed into a different mode. So I'd rather have it be more of a stealth thing. And funny enough, Audi calls sport mode dynamic mode, and here we call dynamic mode sport mode. But we call the whole selection dynamic mode, which is pretty funny. So let me get my seatbelt on. And I can't really do much because it's basically early in the morning and all the school zones are on. So you can't have a device in your hand, and you cannot obviously drive over 20 miles an hour, so it's kind of annoying. But in sport mode and in sport plus mode, the power comes on nicely. In standard mode, the turbo lag is there. The shifts from 1 to 2 on this 10-speed transmission are really annoying. It just seems to be like really spurty off the line or very laggy. I do like some of the placements of the controls, but I do not know what this wheel does. I know if you move it left or right, it goes to the next track and the previous track, but I don't know what this wheel does at all. What else can I talk to you about? Memory seats. So this kind of looks like something out of an Audi A6 right here. Kind of spooky. Driving this thing along, the steering is really annoying because it's highly sensitive, but it feels like it's overly engineered, because if I enter a corner, the car feels like it oversteers, and then if I accelerate out with this all-wheel drive, it seems to cause it to oversteer even worse, and it does it like programmatically oversteering. I can't really explain it, but it just does something where it feels like you're gonna lose control every single time. And when I explain that, it's hard to explain. You make a right turn, right? Like this, you're gonna make a right turn. You're gonna give it some gas. And then right now it would kick in extra power and you'd be straight for that curb. Just straight to the curb. That's what this car does. It just sends you into a curb. Now, I obviously haven't curbed it, but you gotta be real quick with your reactions in this car. And I think it's the steering. The steering is just kind of out of control here. It's highly twitchy. There's nothing smooth about it. And that brings me to the suspension, because when you change the drive mode, the dampers don't feel like they're changing. It feels like it's changing the spring rates. It just feels like the springs get stiffer. So the ride over these rough Dallas roads is ridiculous, and it doesn't really change the comfort level of the car. It just changes the stiffness of the springs, and that doesn't help me at all. The other thing too is, because there's no integration of the stereo or that's not even touchscreen, that screen with the HVAC, I actually don't have a way to set like auto climate settings or, remote start temperature settings. There's nothing I can do. And this car is just kind of outdated and antiquated, but it's new. And that's something I don't understand, that why Acura did it this way, because the Civic is so much better. The Civic is so much car, and this is not, other than this V6. And it's not even as powerful as the Infiniti that came out in 2016, which was 6 years ago. So this car is kind of like, I don't know, a designer pair of sneakers, but not the good ones like the Yeezys. It's more or less like the Michael Jordans, the 4s. They look good. You kind of want them, but then once you put them on, you're like, nah, I'm gonna go for some Yeezys. So in this case, this is on the bottom of my list. My top of my list, if I was looking for a four-door Japanese all-wheel drive sports car, is the Q50 Red Sport. This one would be after the what would show up after the what's it called, M4, or even just the the IS 500. And the sticker price here is like 55 grand. That's the same price as the Infiniti. And even though the Infiniti is older and looks more traditional, it's still the way to go because they just nailed it. Acura seems to have rushed it. I don't know why, but I didn't like the A spec because it was too slow. This one isn't fast enough either, and it just drives a little too unpredictable. It has grip, but no handling. And that's where I'm going to leave it because it's early and I need my coffee. Thank you for watching. You don't have to subscribe it. You don't have to like it, but I'd appreciate it. All right. See ya.